Welcome to the Terrible Tirades podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and I'm joined by my brother Dale and our good friends, Paul and Adam. Today, we have a special guest, Christian. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things movies, from good, the bad, and the ugly. We've got you covered. So grab some popcorn and settle in for a wild ride. I'd like to note right now, before we actually get into the episode, that was created by the AI ChatGPT, the intro. And I definitely had to preface that because, or I guess it's not a preface because I didn't say it before I said it, but I definitely had to say that because it is, I can't believe I said from the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mm-hmm. This message brought to you by Skynet. Submit. We are here for your good.
I before I read it, or before I read it aloud, I said to myself, I'm not going to actually say that part because that's fucking corny as hell. And then I read it anyway. I was like, well, I guess we're doing it, boys. Let's go.
Listen, it's written down, you know.
I thought it was pretty genius since we're talking movies.
Anyway, as is the theme of Terrible Tirades, we don't actually do intros here. Nobody knows who anybody is because I don't allow anyone to actually introduce themselves. But Christian, I'll give you this wonderful time. Say hello.
Hello, people of audio space.
Perfect. So today we like the Chat GPT intro said, we're going to be talking about movies. I myself am not a movie buff. But I do like watching cinema as opposed to like my wife who falls asleep at every single movie ever. So I'm very excited to talk about this. I know Adam and Paul and Christian, you three are by far the most cinema buffs I know, I think, on the earth. Yeah, it's a hard shaking no from Paul.
I mean, I like to think I am when I have the time.
I know Christian is a pretty experienced movie guy. I have weird tastes in movies, so I don't know how much I can contribute.
Yeah, every day I'm on the journey to becoming that person. I watch about a movie every day, if that tells you anything.
Bro, I wish I had time.
Let's jump right into it then, and let's go round robin. So everyone's seeing the same screen I am, right? So I have Adam in the top left, Paul top right, Christian bottom right, Dale bottom left.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing everyone, just not in the same organization as you.
Okay, anyway, so Adam, I'll just call out the names as I go. We're going to do round robin, and I want everyone to list potentially, I don't want you to say like your absolute top movie, but I want you to tell me one of your absolute most favorite movies.
So this is actually not my top favorite movie, but I think it's the movie that I identify with the most, and I have to go with that, and that's Clerks.
I could have guessed that.
I've based my online identity around it pretty much.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Hey, how many blowjobs had Veronica given?
Well, that's not even the right context, I don't think. We don't know. It could have been hundreds. It's 36 different guys.
That's true.
Before she met Dante.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So what about Clerks? Is like what's the major appeal for you?
It's it's sort of nostalgia at this point. It's a look into the everyday life in the early 90s. That's a fun part of it. I mean, obviously that wasn't at the time that it came out though. It was at that time it was more about just the everyman dialogue, the relatability of hating your job and feeling like there was nothing that you were really contributing with what you were doing for work. Basically, the whole movie is like a discussion of that. And Kevin Smith wrote some pretty great jokes in that, um, and a few other movies, in my opinion, although sadly it's gone downhill in recent years, his writing.
So it came out 1994. I don't remember. Now I'm thinking about it. Like I don't remember too much about the story or anything. I mean I remember the clerks. Obviously, I remember that they're like attendants and they hate their job, and it's black and white film. But other than that, like I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Death Star contractor
Absolutely.
discussion. That's one that really sticks out to me. Now that I work with so many contractors, I'm sitting there thinking, did you know what you were getting into with this one?
Yeah, it's that's really the highlight of the movie is just the little side conversations. I mean, the actual story is about one of the clerks, Dante, having to pick between his current girlfriend and an old flame who comes back into town and back into his life. They're kind of both willing to entertain the idea of a relationship with him. And he's like, going back and forth about them through the whole movie while at the same time sort of philosophizing about his job and his entire station in life.
I'm just watching the screen in your background of your camera, and I saw like Jason X and like. Sorry. Anyway, all right, Paul. Let's go with yours.
So, favorite movie?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be your absolute favorite movie,
Yeah.
but like top. Let's go with top 3 if you can.
Yeah, like okay, so like I got 3 different kinds, I guess. Yeah, probably my first movie I said was my favorite movie. I really like Donnie Darko back in the day, but maybe I was just trying to. I mean, it's a good movie, but it was like one of those like, oh, I feel kind of different because I like something that not a lot of people like. Maybe I was trying to be cool. But I mean, it's pretty good. It makes you think. It's a little bit goofy.
I do get that vibe when I watch it now. Like this was sort of just like really early 2000s edgy kind of stuff, and I think that's
Yeah,
why a lot of people were into it, but overall it's still pretty good.
yeah. I mean, it's still decent. I still enjoy watching it every time. Like it makes me laugh, and I think there's a lot of cool moments, and makes you think a bit. Even
Makes
if
you
it,
think about time a lot too, because right, that was part of the ending. Are we allowed to talk spoilers
Spoilers!
I think
about
for
how like
Donnie
Spoiler
Darko,
alert.
he broke the time continuum or whatever, and he had to go back to where he would
Yeah,
have died naturally, or else the world was going to end. That's the biggest
yeah.
takeaway of it
He
for me.
basically had to sacrifice himself to break the
And he was
cycle.
haunted by Frank the Bunny the whole time while he's
Yeah,
kind of just aside from all the edginess and whatever, I find that to be it's a cool movie. I still like it. I think it holds up.
probably one of the worst depictions of was it Swayze, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he was yeah.
Uh, you know, but yeah, good movie. And then I think more recently, the original Godfather, that film, like really stuck with me for a while. Like it just kind of was like it made me feel like I know like they always say, oh, this movie's gonna put you on the edge of your seat. That one really fucking did, and not in the way like Michael Bay claims that he's going to with like his explosions every 10 seconds or what the director of the Marine thought you're going to feel like after every single building he walked out of exploded. But it was so tense. Bathroom scene was just like one of the most tense and well done moments I can think of in any film.
Yeah, I think that if there was an objective best movie of all time, in my opinion, like trying to strip away all the subjectivity I can from picking a best movie, I think that that one takes the cake.
Yeah.
I just watched that a couple weeks ago, and every second of that movie is a big part of the movie. Not a single second wasted, and it holds up. And I don't think there will ever be a movie that holds up quite like that through time.
See, this is on my rewatch list, The Godfather and Godfather 2. And I guess I should just go ahead and do Coda or 3 or whatever while I'm at it. But my problem was I watched too many movies too early before I was ready to understand them. Because I tried to watch that movie when I was 12. And my entire thoughts about it are, oh, it was just like really long and really boring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my whole memory. So maybe I should revisit it and I'll have a different opinion. I've done that with a few and it's gone like both ways.
Yeah, I did that with A Wonderful Life, something I was actually allowed to watch at that age. Going back, it's a great movie.
I was going to ask if you felt, or sorry, if you were to watch The Godfather or Donnie Darko or whatever the case may be today, and I don't know, let's say that you had never seen a movie up to this point in your entire life. Do you feel like they would still hold true, knowing like all the life experiences you've had up to this point, knowing like the type of development that you've had? Do you feel like you would still feel as profound as you do? Do you feel, or let's say you've watched every other movie other than Donnie Darko, and you haven't watched that, and you watch it now? Do you think it would still be as profound, or still hold such a high place in their ranking scheme?
For Donnie Darko, I would say that would be more questionable. I think I would still enjoy it. I don't know if I would hold it as high as I do. If you're talking like I've seen pretty much everything else. I mean, if I'd seen everything, I'd probably be fucked in the head. But, there's a lot of weird movies out there, like fucking Eraserhead. You know, that's weird.
Yeah,
That's a fucked one.
Yeah.
I watched that one with Gerald. God damn.
I would need to be with Gerald to watch that one. He can really put things like that in perspective for me.
Yeah.
Heightens the sense of paranoia for sure.
But yeah, but Godfather, I would say yes, and still hold up 100%. And you said 3 movies, so I'm gonna throw a third one in there, and this one's just gonna be for pretty much the nostalgia feel, just something like from my childhood that I always remember. And you may laugh at this one, but it's gonna be Toy Story, the first Toy Story.
I was expecting
Right in
Lion
the
King.
feels every time.
Nothing wrong with Toy Story, man.
Lion King's great, but Toy Story just like, I don't know, there's just something about it. Like I just remember seeing that in the theater as a kid, and it just really gets me.
I don't know what it was. I had this over like I I had this feeling in, I think it was middle school. It had to have been middle school. I had this feeling where I had to watch The Lion King, and we had it on VHS. Okay, but I didn't have time to watch it before bed, and I was slightly feeling under the weather. Not so much so that I couldn't go to school, but I convinced my mom. I was like, I am feeling absolute horseshit today. I cannot go to school, only because I really wanted to watch Lion King on VHS in my room. And I sat there, and I didn't go to school that day, and all I did was watch Lion King. I don't know what it was. And you know what's funny is I wouldn't even rank that in my top 3 today. But at the time, I absolutely had to not go to school and watch Lion King.
It is a good movie, though. Like, I would say Toy Story, Lion King, Aladdin, and Pinocchio are all like they transcend the realm of child's movies. There's deeper messages there. I was once in a church where a guy preached like 3 Sundays about the Lion King and how it's God's way of telling you to let go of your past. And I mean, he's not totally wrong.
I thought that was Narnia.
I don't know, bro. On the topic of Aladdin, there's an evil little part of me that wants to make a culturally appropriate Aladdin, where like Aladdin buys Jasmine for 12 camels and like trading rights.
All right. I have to talk about. Have any of you watched the Pinocchio from
Oh.
Guillermo del
Guillermo del Toro?
Toro?
Absolutely. I watched
No.
that.
Oh, dude, it's
Oh
wild.
my God, you gotta watch it.
Mussolini is a major character in this Pinocchio retelling.
Yes, it's astonishing.
I liked it. I didn't love it.
I mean, as far as Pinocchio goes, it's not the greatest telling of Pinocchio, but anytime someone in an animated movie looks at a puppet and says he looks like fine fascist youth, you know, it's at least worth a cheap laugh.
The way it started with just World War II, the way the original kid dies.
Spoilers!
Is from bombing from World War II planes.
Yeah, the opening like 5 minutes is phenomenal.
I mean, I'll say this. Pretty much all of the underlying meaning in Pinocchio has just been shit all over by that movie. I mean, it's like that kid dies because he goes into a church.
Yeah.
They replaced Jiminy Cricket, the literal Jesus Christ analog, with like a neurotic author version of Jiminy Cricket. I mean,
I really liked it. I
it
thought
was a fun little thing. It just wasn't.
It made Jordan Peterson sad. That's what you're saying.
Oh, it definitely did. 100%.
All right. Let's move on to Christian. What you can provide your 3 top or your 1 top. I don't really care.
My favorite movie has been pretty much the same for the last 8 years or so. It's Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. I watch it every single year. It blows my mind every time. It's the reason I love movies. It meets all the criteria for what makes a movie perfect. I love it to death. And for those who haven't seen it, it's about it's sort of about oil, but it's more of a character study about what happens when a man's ambition becomes too much of oneself, and it's just got PTA, the director, and cinematographer. I think his name is Robert Elswit. He uses perfect cinematography. The music done by Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead. His first real dabble into making an original soundtrack for a movie, and of course Daniel Day-Lewis. It doesn't get better acting than that, honestly.
I mean, since I work now with a lot of oil industry people and deal both with the oil industry as a thing and with the bloviated egos of the people that are in the oil industry, that movie is more and more relevant to my day-to-day life. I find myself quoting it a lot.
For me, I wanted to mention that when I think of that movie, the very first thing I think of is the bowling alley scene.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He has the he has his own little bowling alley in his mansion, if you will.
Mm-hmm. One of the greatest endings to a movie ever, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love it. Okay, Dale, I want to know your top 1 or top 3 if you can't pick it down to 1.
I mean, okay. So I have weird tastes. I guarantee you my very top favorite of the most that I've watched recently is not going to be something people know, but I'll mention it anyway because it's a good film. The Island by it was directed by Pavel Lungin. It's a Russian film. It's actually called Ostrav, but it's sort of a telling of a man who in World War II is forced to. And spoilers, there are spoilers. I am not going to pull any punches with spoilers. Like, just don't listen to this episode if you care about spoilers. But it's the telling of a man who is forced in World War II to kill the captain of his coal barge by Nazis, who then kind of leave him floating for dead, and lives the rest of his life in a monastery trying to make up for it. And I don't know, it is just so. I've never seen someone try to make a movie closer to a Dostoevsky novel, and I'm a big fan of Dostoevsky. So there's a lot of subtlety to it. The ones that people would know, I think the best critically acclaimed one, like my number 2 in my top 3, would have to be Reservoir Dogs. I know it's not the most critically masterful of Quentin Tarantino's works, but it's just so accessible. Like, I can watch it without as much of an investment as I would have to put into, say, Hateful Eight or Django, or the one that I shouldn't be forgetting very much, but I am.
Glorious Bastards, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill.
Pulp Fiction. Yeah, I mean, Reservoir Dogs is very simple. It was very early in his career, but he managed to take very little in terms of budget and make a really great psychological movie out of it. And I dig that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wrote the script and sent it to someone who sent it to Harvey Keitel's wife, who then sent it to Harvey Keitel, and then got him like a $2 million budget for that movie. So it just happened to be like I gave it to someone to read, they gave it to someone to read, and then they gave it to a famous actor, and then they got budgeting for it. It's a masterpiece in my eyes. I love it.
Yeah, I love Reservoir Dogs. And as far as the third one, just for nostalgia's sake, for my childhood, Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
Oh, wow.
I mean, bro.
Ooh, god damn. Hot fire.
It had so much to it that influenced who I became later.
Remember the 4 basic food groups?
Beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard.
Absolutely.
Oh,
It's one of the only Disney movies I've never seen.
Ooh,
What?
It is well worth watching.
it is good.
It's
Oh,
good.
I'm angry.
I actually watched that at work because I have a lot of time to do that, or at least I did back in like 2019, early 2020. And I remember wishing like, oh man, I hope this holds up, because I watched this a lot with you guys, honestly, in our childhood.
I bet you did.
And I threw that shit on, and the moment it started, I was like, it just brings back so many great memories, and it just holds up so well. And it's just a topic that I love, that whole lost city of Atlantis, the sunken city of Atlantis.
Hell yeah.
I feel like Dale, I bet you can do a good impersonation of the demolition guy from that movie.
I bet you can.
Oh, what, the mole?
Yeah.
No. The guy who likes to blow things up with the bowl cut.
Oh, well, both of them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Your basic office supplies, black powder, dynamite, fuses, glue, paper clips, big ones. You know, simple office supplies.
Okay, but now you got to do the mole.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of a scene that he was in.
Think about the one where Milo accidentally gets into his dirt in the bed bunk.
You have disturbed the dirt. England must never mingle with France.
All right. We're moving on to Adam.
Didn't we
With
start
a
with
different topic?
Never mind. We're going with me because
Yeah, you skipped you.
I forgot me. Okay, so it's up to you all, but I would rather say my favorite series, my favorite show.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Listen, I'm here to enforce rules. That is not what the rest of us did. You're going to need to follow the rules.
Okay, so anyway, my favorite show is Band of Brothers.
Good one.
I mean, miniseries movie. Where's the distinction? Where do we cut the TV movie line? I don't know.
Probably at the single viewing experience versus 8 to 10 hour long experiences.
I mean, technically, yeah.
I'll just tell you, the first time I watched Band of Brothers, it was a one sitting experience.
Ooh, that's good.
I was very into it.
Surprisingly, I watched The Pacific before I watched Band of Brothers, so it was kind of shocking to see how much more tame it was. Weirdly enough, I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm not sure if you've seen the Pacific, but it's like very visceral and intense. And of course, it kind of speaks to the Pacific side of the World War II versus the Eastern Front, anyways. But uh, the Band of Brothers definitely had a more warm feeling to it. I mean, it's called Band of Brothers. There's definitely a sense of brotherhood throughout the entire thing. And what was it? The Battle of the Bulge, was that the one of the main things?
Yeah.
That whole sequence blew my mind.
Oh my gosh, the Battle of the Bulge in there was absolutely incredible. Who out of you four have actually watched? Obviously, Christian, you have. Band of Brothers, Adam,
I
Dale.
watched 2 episodes and I kind of tapped out, but I was very young still. It was like around the time I watched The Godfather, I was like 13.
Okay. So for me, I obviously I'm in the army. I joined the army, but that was one of the like key reasons. Like other than the fact that my grandfather was in the army, he was the absolute reason I joined the army. But Band of Brothers was just the camaraderie, the motivation, the absolute raw like feeling and just everything about Band of Brothers made me feel like that is an organization that I want to be a part of. That's a legacy that I could leave, you know what I mean? And I absolutely love that show because it made everybody human. You think about soldiers and you don't think about who they are, and that show really showed the human side of soldiers in World War II. And my most favorite part of the show was the very beginning of every single episode, where they would have an interview with the actual soldiers that they were depicting in the show. They would have an interview with that soldier who was still alive at the time. All of them have since passed, sadly. But they would have an interview with them, and you could see the emotion in the man's eyes. It was so intense.
Speaking of using the actual veterans as either actors or consultants in the movie making process, uh, what did you think of All Quiet on the Western Front? I'm planning to watch that this weekend,
I haven't
and
watched that either.
So I watched it. I believe it was because of you, Dale. You were telling me something about it.
I had read some things about it, and I'm like, this sounds extremely interesting, and I knew it would be up your alley.
So I watched the most recent one. Not because there's three of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched the most recent one that Netflix had created, and it was good. It was very emotional. It was, and if you're not tracking what that movie is, it's depiction of World War One on Germany's viewpoint, and it follows a soldier for Germany who is an incredibly young recruit, and how his mentality, how it goes from a spirit de corps and like I will serve my country, and goes all the way up, and then he realizes just how horrible everything really is, and it just goes down, and it's just tragic, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to spoil anything because the Netflix adaptation is newer, so it is well worth the watch. If you love like cinema, if you love like really good just cinema, that is something for you to watch, definitely.
Well, because what I had been reading and what made me think of it when you were talking, uh, in the original, what was it, the 1920s, the late teens or early 20s when they made the original, right after World War One, most of the extras in that movie were actually part of the Kaiser's army. Like they were German soldiers in World War One. So when they were helping out with the production and acting in the background, they went through actual drills that they would do in training. You know, like they had the on the ground information. It was a film that was banned in the US during World War II as German propaganda because it was pro-German for being about a German, and it was banned in Nazi Germany for being anti-German propaganda for how it depicted the war. So you know it's got to be good.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's well worth the watch. But change gears. Favorite movie? So the thing that I remember the most from my childhood, which is really weird, given that I'm serving for the United States and everything, and I've been in my role for over 10 years in my career path. V for Vendetta, #1 movie.
I like it.
Absolutely loved it. I just loved that. It for me, what I got out of it as a child when I watched it for the first time was standing up to a tyrant. That's how I saw it, and I still today I still see it like that, and I love it for that very reason.
The tyrant being the entire totalitarian English surveillance government, basically, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Big Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie's great. Back when the Wachowskis were brothers. They that movie, that scene where he goes on a little tangent, but every word starts with a V.
Oh, I
Right?
love it.
Fucking rent free in my head.
I sorry, Paul. I know you got something to say, but I have to say this.
It's all good.
I was living with my dad at the time, and my dad didn't have cable, and we were very poor, and all these bad things. But anyway, he had a VHS player, and he had that movie, and I would watch it every single night, numerous times a night until I fell asleep. And in my English class, it was like a honors English class or whatever. They were having what was it called, slam poetry or something like that, but they were having this thing where like you had to give a poem, and I memorized that speech with everything
Damn.
starting with V. I memorized it and gave it in front of the class, and I aced it. I loved it, man. And I felt so like at that time in school, I was so reserved. I didn't really talk to a lot of people. I didn't really do anything. And everybody was like, I'm not kidding when I say it was like a standing ovation at the end of it. And everyone was like saying, "Oh, good job, good job." And I I'd only been at that school for a better part of like 4 months, and nobody up to that point has ever said anything to me once. Nobody had. I had made no friends. It was horrible for me. And I actually went back to the front of the classroom because I felt so vindicated, and I felt so like on top of the world. And I was like, I don't appreciate everyone acting like I'm your friend after I sat in the back of this class as a new student for the last 3 months, and not a single one of you ever said anything to me one time.
Ooh, savage.
And I actually said that, and then and said, I am leaving to go back to Morgantown in a month. And so I appreciate it, but it was a little too late. And I sat down, and I remember seeing my English teacher, who I really liked, but I remember seeing my English teacher just laughing. Like he had a smile, and he was laughing underneath his breath. And I felt so fucking good about myself because I knew I was never going to see any of these assholes again in my life. So I was like, fuck these guys. I'm going to do this. All right, Paul, I'm so sorry. That took a while.
Oh no, it's cool. So wait, one thing. Christian was talking about brothers. Was this the same people that made the Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I was like, that can only be two brothers that I can think of. Anyways, I was just gonna say, like, how iconic, the mask is from that movie. Like anybody who's ever thinks that they're like some kind of like a hacker or fucking in some secret society, they're always wearing that shit with like a voice distortion on.
Anonymous just completely took that.
Yeah.
Is Anonymous still a thing?
Yeah, the Guy Fawkes mask.
For the government the whole time.
I mean, I'm sure it's like just your average neckbeard who has a fedora and a katana and
I feel attacked.
Has like one of them big anime girl body pillows, but yeah, they probably still
I wouldn't know anything about that. Could be anybody he's talking about.
Hey, it's cool. If that's who you are, it's cool. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's the type of person you are. Let's not beat around the bush here.
I'm not judging. You're just on a registry, all right?
Konnichiwa, senpai. Please notice me. No, I was just going to say, man, you did that presentation. I actually had the same presentation, like memorize a poem for an AP English class, yeah. And I did not get that reaction because I memorized the Jabberwocky, which is 90% gibberish.
Nice.
Just raw English nonsense, taradiddle, hey, fiddle, fiddle. And everyone's like, what is that? I'm like, plebby. You fucking plebs.
Like Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah. The Jabberwocky from Alice in Wonderland. And everyone's like, I don't get it. What does that even mean? Is this like Game of Thrones?
The Walrus and the Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
The original, like, fucking Disney cartoon version, pretty good. Even though it was a mashup of the two books, it was still a good mashup adaptation. Live action, shit. Complete shit.
All right. So we talked about everybody's favorite movies. I'm not going to actually ask you what your worst or most hated movies are, but what I am going to ask is everybody's opinion on the biggest movie flops that we can recall. That is, I assume that we're all of a similar mind for that kind of genre. I feel like it's pretty. When I consider a movie flop, I think of the ticket sales. I think, well, that's not so much a thing anymore. Thank you, COVID. But
the torrents. How many seats does this have?
But what would you consider some of the largest or biggest movie flops of our time?
I'm going to have to look this up, honestly.
Yeah. If they flop, I just don't see them anymore. I'm like, oh, okay, it's trash. Goodbye.
Okay, well, I mean, I can go off of Wikipedia. Yeah. So, starting from the top, I have The 13th Warrior from 1999.
Oh, man.
That's actually not bad.
I don't know. We had to watch that in one of my AP Lit classes, I think, in high school. And I'm just like, come on, man. You're telling me that he learned Old Norse and extremely complicated Icelandic language, and he's from the Middle East, and he learned it in like a week listening to them. Like, come on, bro.
I'm reading a lot of these, and I'm not actually seeing a lot that I know. The next one I know, 47 Ronin. That one.
I think they're flops for a reason.
Reeves?
I think they're flops for a reason, he says.
None of us have seen him or heard of him, really.
Yes, that's Keanu Reeves.
I mean, I can tell you some, but I've never seen them. The biggest ones that come to my mind are Norbit with Eddie Murphy and The Adventures of Pluto Nash, I think also with Eddie Murphy.
That's on here. Yeah. The Adventures of Pluto Nash. That's on the list.
I did watch Norbit not too long ago, just because I think me and Amber were both just like, I remember seeing this in the past, and it's here. I guess I'm curious. It was pretty bad, but it made me laugh a few times. But it's not good at all. It's like if what's the fucking Nutty Professor, but just way, way, way worse.
I wonder how Tyler Perry still has a career. Like, I can't think of anything he's made that I'm like extremely, this is a great movie.
Well, Dale, I hate to break it to you, but you do have the wrong skin color.
Spoilers!
I
Whoa.
mean, I'm working on that. You know,
Yeah.
this southern sun is really helping with my complexion.
I don't think those movies are targeted to you. I was just having a conversation with this at work because I had the same sentiment. I was like, I feel like those movies keep coming out and I wonder why. And uh, the person who I work with is black and she was just like, yeah, everyone I know in my family community, they just eat that shit up. I was like, yeah, makes sense.
All right. Completely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
I don't know. There's a few I've seen on here. The Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Nobody probably watched that. It was okay. I bought the DVD when I was a little kid because I really liked the games, and then you find out it's nothing like any of that shit at all. It's just some weird generic sci-fi movie. And then another one I see on here. Fuck, where was it? I actually, oh yeah, it was Land of the Lost with Will Ferrell. I can see why that is on there. I enjoy that movie more than I should, though, but just because what's the guy who plays like fucking Red from Danny McBride is in it, and he's just like fucking hilarious in anything. He's just like talking about like this dream where he's like fighting a bunch of wizards. He's like, and the only way I could beat him is punch them in the face as hard as I can, and then all their wizard wives came and had sex with me. Like he just says like fucking hilarious off the wall shit. Like that movie was not made to be good. It was made to be stupid and funny, and that's what it was, and I enjoyed it.
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this.
Ooh, good. This
Well,
is
I got
good.
two things to say. Okay, I got one thing that I wanted to bring up before you even started saying anything, but then one thing I have to say. I'm not a Will Ferrell fan, even in the slightest. I cannot think of a single movie that Will Ferrell's in that I'm like, I would love to rewatch that. I don't like him in anything. I just don't like his humor. I don't mind him as a person. I don't mind him even as an actor. I don't like his type of humor. It doesn't make me want to watch his movie. It's that phenomenon or phenomena, whatever, that makes you like cringe and don't want to actually watch the film because you want to turn it off. Because you're like, no, I don't want to. Nah, I don't want to see that.
I don't know, bro. There are some films from Will Ferrell's filmography that were absolutely essential parts of high school for me that I think people are still quoting no matter how old they get. Talladega Nights is really big.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know,
Step Brothers.
Step Brothers,
Step Brothers, yeah.
Anchorman.
Absolutely.
Anchorman is absolutely up there.
His humor is very niche for the time it was created. Like I feel like we as a species kind of evolved from that kind of humor.
That's
just
deep.
that mid 2000s, very edgy, very expletive sort of humor. It doesn't hold up the same way, in my opinion. I can see. I mean, looking at it objectively, I can see where Sean's coming from. I don't think I'll ever go back and watch a Will Ferrell movie. Maybe Elf, just for the sake of Christmas, but I haven't even seen that in a while. I used to love that movie, but
I only did Elf recently for my children to watch it.
But I get it. I'm not the biggest Will Ferrell fan. He's a good producer of things. He's good at funding things. I don't think he's good at starring in things.
Yeah, I enjoy Will Ferrell, but I can see why you don't. But what about his like counterpart? Do you like John C. Reilly?
I think so. I'm struggling to
Because
think
I enjoy him much more.
I'm
I
struggling.
mean, I like them both.
To think of a film where he's by himself without Will Ferrell. Can you give me an example?
I can't think of a movie. I can think of a show. Like check it out with Dr. Steve Brule, and that shit is fucking hilarious. Like he's just so good at being this goofball character, and the fact that he'll just like go on like Conan and he'll be like, so Dr. Steve Brule, tell me about your character. He's like, what are you talking about? Like he's like a real doctor. Like that's not me. He's like, I have a mustache. That's not me.
No, here's one that I'm going to catch some flack for. Speaking of people whose acting chops probably don't hold up to their directing chops or producing chops, depending on which one they're doing. I think that the guys from Key and Peele, which is the one that is starting to direct all those movies?
Jordan Peele?
Jordan
Peele, yeah.
Mhm.
I think he does a great job directing, but I was never a
Sure.
huge fan of their comedy.
I wasn't
It
either.
had some bits, but
Yeah. There's like 10 skits I've seen. I'm just like that. Yeah, it's actually really good. But most of the stuff, I'm like, Chappelle Show did it better in every way, kind of. Not to compare, but like, no, I'm with you on that.
but his films are good. Like they have an energy to them that is at once sort of humorous, but also can convey that serious tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
No, he's 2 for 3 for me for sure.
I think if you're gonna talk about their comedy, like I legitimately enjoy the most of it, but I will admit they are one of those comedies where they get way overquoted to a point where it's annoying. Like anytime someone's name is Aaron, it's always Aaron. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. We all have YouTube here. We've seen it. You don't have to say it every time someone has a silly name. The fucking NFL ones are pretty hilarious. I will admit.
So I have a movie that was a flop. It wasn't a big flop because it wasn't a big budget, right? So it was like not much risk for even though there was no reward. But it was kind of highly anticipated because it was the movie that came. I guess I should say this is a movie that would be considered a flop from the perspective of the director's career, but I loved it. And that was the next movie made by the guy who made Napoleon Dynamite. It is called Gentlemen Broncos.
I love that movie.
Yes.
I've never seen it.
It's one of the weirdest movies you will ever see. And it embodies the spirit of mid 90s Midwest church people in a way that you cannot even begin to comprehend.
Oh yeah. What's I want to think of like the fucking quote from that where like first of all, what's his name? I think it's Jeremy Clement, the guy
The author
from
guy?
yeah, the author
Yeah.
guy. His name's like Chevalier in it, but it's Jermaine Clement, who's from he's like the Flight of the
Oh,
Concords. They do all that
yeah.
music shit. But he's like this author who like plagiarizes this kid's work because he's just like a failure now. But there's a part when he's in his class and he's talking about the naming of trolls, and he's like, "Little girl, what is one of the name of the characters from your movie? Teacup, Teacup. Where did you get that? A troll wouldn't think of that name. A little girl would. Traginus every time."
What?
He's like, you can add anus, Ionis, Onius to any name, and suddenly it becomes magical. What is one of your names, little boy? Nebuchadnezzar. Oh boy, I haven't heard that one before. What about this? Nebuchadnezzar is such a fucking funny ass movie.
Yeah.
All right, I got two movies because we're getting kind of close to the end that I don't know why I just have to bring up, and I want to know everybody's opinion on. The first one, I think we can probably unanimously say that we all really love. I know it's hard. It's a hard sell. The Mummy.
Oh man,
Hell yeah.
Oh, dude,
I
yeah.
just watched that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen it since I was a kid. How's it hold
But
up?
Oh, I mean, even better than. But I mean, it's just as good as it was when you were a kid. The sense of wonder and adventure in it, just perfect. The humor is actually more funny now, kinda. And I got it on 4K physical, so it looked beautiful, and it's Brendan Fraser at his peak Hollywood.
I bet in 4K that those scarabs crawling under the skin just look so real.
I want to
Oh,
watch
bro.
that.
As a kid, I was so terrified of that. Like,
Me, I still
Bugs-
am. I still am.
Bugs
yeah, like
nuts.
it's one of those things. I think Dad got tired of hearing about it, but I also think that there were probably actual bugs under the bed sheets at Dad's house because of the
Probably.
conditions there. So like, I was afraid for a good reason.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite scenes from that movie, and it cracks me the hell. Like, it's the boat scene where the dudes in black robes hijack it to try and steal that map or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns into a big shootout. And before Jonathan's character jumps off the boat, he looks over at all the Americans just shooting and having a good old time. And he's just like, Americans. And they're just like, they're all laughing while shooting guns. And it's just, oh my God. It's so good.
That's great.
Awesome.
Oh man, that's very good.
The two movies where they were talking about like bugs or parasites that scared me the most. Mummy, definitely, and then the Rundown when they're talking about something crawling up your peeing tube if you're peeing in the water.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen Cloverfield? That's bug horror, crazy
No.
bug horror.
I've not
Oh,
seen
dude.
I've not seen it. No.
Cloverfield was it was a weird one. It was like that. We're thinking of the same thing, right? It's kind of like a Blair Witch Project style found.
Yeah,
footage
basically it's handheld
thing.
camera. The alien invasion, but the aliens are like
Mhm.
bugs.
It's kind of got a Lovecraft thing where you don't really see much of the enemy until the very end, and even then, it's kind of tangential. It's more the psychological side of it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'd say so.
So the second film that I wanted to bring up, and this one I love. I'll preface by saying I love it. Holds a special place in my heart. But I'm not sure of everyone's opinion on it. The Fifth Element.
It's a good one.
Great movie.
It's good.
I love it.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
the Fifth Element. I haven't seen it in so long, I forget a lot about it.
I love it. I watched it numerous times. I specifically I remember watching it on TNT all the time. It was always on TNT as a kid.
Yeah, it's got its weird costume designs and it's got a weird entertainment value to it. Kind of reminds me of like the way they did the costume design for Hunger Games, kind of, where everyone's just kind of dressed outrageously. But yeah, I think that movie holds up.
Well, I don't know. I think I was heavily in love with the female actress.
What's that, Mila
well.
Jovovich or whatever? Yeah, she's great.
It's one of the last PG-13 movies where you saw them titties too.
That's a good fact to know offhand. I love that.
It's at a certain point it just stopped happening. It was like that and Titanic. They were both 97. And after that they were like, no more. It's too much.
I think it's healthy for 13-year-olds to see a good pair of breasts. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. I think it was one of my first like real introductions to like wacky sci-fi, I guess.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that was
I
like
don't,
my bridge.
I don't remember any movie before that, like where it's like it's sci-fi, but it's like it almost looks like it's like sci-fi, but like New York or like some kind of a city. Like,
Yeah,
you got like the fucking floating taxis and shit, and everybody's just like an asshole.
It's our
then-
future. It's coming up.
Chris
Yeah.
Tucker in that.
Yeah.
I got his incredibly high-pitched voice with the like spokesperson or not. I guess he was like a show host type
Yep.
thing. I don't know. It's very memorable for me. I remember watching it and just absolutely enjoying from start to finish every time I watched it.
Good old Gary Oldman too, doing this good old Gary Oldman villain. One of his many villain
wow.
arcs.
He's always such a different character.
He's one of the best actors there is.
All right.
Can't be sure that one of us is not Gary Oldman.
You cannot
At
be
this
sure.
moment.
Dude, I cannot be certain.
I don't want this show or I don't want this episode to end because there's so much more we could talk about. But I will just go around, and we're going to do this as quick as possible. I don't want you to give much explanation as to what your answer is or why, but I'm going to let you choose, okay? You have two choices to give me your quick answer on. It's either going to be movies or trilogy or movie series or just movie of best soundtrack, best sound, best music, or biggest uh game to movie adaptation failures. I feel like the first one's easier to go off of.
Soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Going with
Are
the
we
soundtrack.
voting, or are we just like going around and picking?
Well, everyone, yeah, just go and tell me which one everyone would like
I
to
did
do.
a soundtrack.
Okay, well, then
Yeah,
that's 3 already
soundtrack
out of
for
4.
sure.
Okay, so that was a stupid question. All right, we're going to start with Adam, then Paul, then Christian, then Dale, and then I guess myself. Adam, what is your most memorable or best, and you don't got to give any explanation, I just want to know, what is the best soundtrack to come out of a movie, trilogy, movie, whatever?
There are a lot of great answers, and an honorable mention has to be Dazed and Confused because that's one of the greatest fucking soundtracks of all time. But for me personally, the American Pie franchise.
Okay,
Love
pause.
that music.
Are we doing original scores, or are we doing just soundtracks with like real life music in it?
Either one. It doesn't matter. Whichever
I
one is
think
better
either
for
one.
you.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah,
can't think
not
of
a
real life
fan
music.
of scores really.
Whoa, that hurts.
Okay. So Adam did his. Paul, you're next.
Oh man, I have two, and they may sound stupid, but I just got to go with one. Got to go with one. If I had to pick, I guess Jurassic Park.
Nice.
Like I'm always humming that shit in my head.
Nice.
You know, just like when they're fucking flying to the island. It's just fucking awesome.
All right. I agree with that one. Christian?
I was planning on saying Star Wars, but after giving it some thought, I'm gonna have to go with Lord of the Rings and Howard
God
Shore.
damn it.
Fuck
That was
you.
mine.
That was totally mine.
That is.
I
It
was
doesn't
thinking
get better
about
than
that
that.
one
You've
as
got
well.
motifs for every part of the movie. It's just the best.
Oh
The
man.
movie isn't the same without the soundtrack. But if I'm gonna pick a movie that's like similar to Adam's, I think Boogie Nights has a pretty good soundtrack in terms of real music. But yeah, Lord of the Rings is my answer. I'm sorry, guys.
I just want to say I would say that Lord of the Rings probably is a better soundtrack than Jurassic Park, but I just remember Jurassic Park better, so I went with that.
Yeah,
That makes total sense.
Yeah, you totally took mine. I have
everything
nothing
John
after
Williams has
that.
ever done. Is,
Nothing?
I'll go with Star Wars because it's so memorable.
Hell
But
yeah.
like Lord of the Rings was on my mind. That's immediately what came to mind when you said that.
So that's what came to my mind as well. And Star Wars was next. But you know what I'll say instead of all those? Because, I mean, since they're already out there, Guardians of the Galaxy.
ooh, that's a good one for
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah, nice.
It's got a lot of good potential there.
I really like that one.
They do it. They do it really well too.
Yeah.
Like he even just like the way he kills the last guy, it's like a fucking dance off.
Yeah.
Bro, here's one people don't think about a lot it's a TV show, not a movie, but I don't think the X-Files would have been nearly what it was without the soundtrack.
Oh.
Like, even the incidental sounds, their sound design was spot on.
I was creeped out before the episode began. Eerie fucking music.
I don't think I watched a ton of X-Files growing up.
They did The Hills Have Eyes before The Hills Have Eyes.
That was the evil redneck episode that every show from Hollywood had to have in the 90s. Ooh, spooky country people. Don't let them get close to your children. They'll eat them.
All right, closing thoughts. Anybody? Anything?
Yeah. Does everybody have a favorite foreign language movie?
I mentioned mine already. Yeah.
Yeah,
Parasite.
There, that's movie's perfect. I can't. Mine personally is City of God. It's Brazilian, Portuguese, but I don't know if anyone's seen it.
I have not.
Yeah.
That's all I had to add.
Yeah. The Island. The Island was already in my list anyway, but shout out again to The Island, Ostrov.
I can't think of the name, and it's gonna haunt me. Okay, I'm gonna ask. I feel like I'll explain it, hopefully, and you guys will understand it.
You've only got 2 lifelines left.
It's a movie from, I believe, the 90s. And this little girl, I believe, is at this. It's kind of like I don't want to say fairy tale. It's like the haunted version of a fairy tale. And the monster there has eyes in its hands.
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Yeah. That was mid 2000s, I think.
Okay.
That was a Spanish language one, but I forget if it was from
Guillermo,
Spain or
Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, it was Guillermo. Okay.
Poking Pinocchio.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That one, like,
that was a spooky.
It was spooky, but I think about it all the time. So.
Hell yeah, it's a good choice.
Okay.
Adam, any foreign language films that really stuck out to you?
Yeah.
I probably only seen 1 or 2 ever. I don't.
You didn't deal with that subtitle bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, it looks like you're not a true anime king.
I was gonna say like probably Mewtwo Strikes Back. That would be like the one.
But you watched the dub though.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's.
I guess it still counts.
It's still
right?
It's foreign, but it's a foreign language. It's foreign with our language.
When I was in high school, I used to go to the movies with a group of friends all the time. And one of the friends, I've mentioned on a previous episode, he went to, go into the coal mines. He dropped out of high school, went into the coal mines. But he was big redneck. Big redneck. And Inglourious Bastards came out, and we went to go see it in theaters. And approximately 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, I don't know if he even made it that far into the movie, he stood up in the middle of the theater that was packed, and he goes, I didn't pay no goddamn money to read a fucking book, and he left.
That's fucking great.
Oh man, that took a turn. I thought you were gonna say you used to be friends with Homer Hickam.
October.
I saw that movie. That was a good movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
I can
met the Homer Hickam.
I did think of one foreign language movie that I enjoyed, that I know I've seen at least, just to throw it out there, and that is The 400 Blows.
That's my favorite French film. That movie's perfect. Perfect.
That's pretty good.
Never heard of it.
No idea what's it about.
Sounds like a porn.
It's about a boy who lives in a troubled household, and he runs away. And
it's a porn.
Gets caught up into some shit. Just tries to make it on his own as a 12-year-old. I don't know how old he is, but
it's about a young Jewish French boy who runs away at 12 and starts a tax agency, and it's very. He's just trying to pay for his bar mitzvah. So.
Wait, this sounds familiar.
Which one?
Does he buy some magic beans?
Yeah, it's from the director of Wild Turkeys.
This is the part where we confuse the audience.
This is the part where we end the episode. All right, everybody. It is. I see an hour and 7 minutes now. So at
We could
this
have done-
point,
Yeah, so much.
we're going to end it. And I really hope that everybody enjoyed today's episode. And thank you, Christian, for joining. It almost felt a little bit forced because we tricked you into playing GeoGuessr and then made you do a podcast instead. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yay!
Let me know when you
That'd be
guys do a movie part 2. I'll be here. I can talk movies forever.
We definitely will. Adam, you are breathing very heavily. Are you okay?
What are you touching right now, leaning back like that?
Thinking about the
Laughing.
400 Boy movie or whatever it was. 400
part of you.
Blows.
It's a really
He's petting his woolly worm.
What was that inside of before you got it into your hands?
All I hear is. And see your video going. Anyway, okay, we're gonna end it there. Thank you so much for everybody for watching or listening. Sorry, not watching. Listening to.
They better not be watching, or this is now also porn.
China is watching, but.
No.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Terrible Tirades, and thank you all for joining us. So we will see you on the next episode.